Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for November review month. Since it's the month for things like Thanksgiving and it's like family and food, uh I'll dedicate and I'll throw in a little bit of like maybe Native American type of uh films here and there. Really gotta like do like some active searches for them. I did like a couple last year, but I got a good plethora this year to go through, so I'll probably do some uh pick out a couple for next year. But anyway, uh yeah, so it's gonna be a lot like family related stuff, food related stuff, because family and food is gonna be the main theme for November. But anyway, uh, before I continue, please do me a huge favor and like this video, share this with your friends, and follow me in the links in the description below if you want to follow me live as I stream video games via Twitch. And you can chat along with me. If you want to further support the channel, please check out my Patreon. Links in the description below. Anyway, so I got three trilogy in I'll be doing it in a row here, and it's meet. The first one I'll be doing is Meet the Parents, starring Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro. And yeah, it's fun revisiting this trilogy. It's a lot of dynamics that everybody can understand, because a lot of people have gone through maybe not exactly this, but akin to this, tangentially to this, where meeting like the in-laws, essentially, especially if you're on the cups of proposing to the woman that you're with. Now, there's a lot of stuff in terms of relationship dynamics that's like it's way different now than it was back then. But even back then, we look at it through 2024 standards. It's like, yeah, because I got a lot to say about Ben Stiller's, well, his character's girlfriend. I got a lot to say about that girl all through the trilogy, because I don't hate her, but there's certain decisions she made that kind of made me like, okay, like whose side are you on, lady? Really? But anyway, this is directed by Jay Roach. We got Robert De Niro playing Jack Burns, Ben Stiller as, God, it's still funny to this day, Gaylord Greg Fokker. Who names that kid Gaylord? It's like you're begging for your kid to be picked on. It's like, I can't imagine middle school and high school being all that thrilling for a kid like that. We got Blythe Danner playing as Dina Burns, Jack's wife. Terry Polo playing Pam Burns, a second grade teacher, daughter to Dina and Jack, and girlfriend to Greg. You got James Rebhorn as Larry Banks, the father to what is it? Debbie Burns, the other daughter to Jack, who's shoot. Okay, let me begin again. Nicole DeHuff, who plays Debbie Burns, who's also the sister to Pam, and is about to be married to Dr. Bob Banks, and got who's the son of Larry Banks and Linda Banks, played by Phyllis George. Got Owen Wilson as Kevin Raleigh, the wealthy stock investor slash carpenter ex fiance to Pam. Got a lot to say about that guy too. Um, so anyway, Greg has, was in well, it's never specified how long he's been with Pam, but uh, as I mentioned in some stuff here, when I review certain movies about couples and stuff like that, they're moving in together or they're about to be married or whatever the case may be. I, in general, mentioned that the rule of thumb, in my opinion, if with a person for at least 2 years, around that time, a guy should be gearing towards proposing. That's, at least in my viewpoint, the rule of thumb, somewhere between 2 to 3 years. That's more than long enough to know how you feel about this person and you're ready to, like, okay, legit, you want to marry this person. Yeah, and that's long enough to vet each other to know, like, okay, we can rock with each other long term kind of situation. So Greg is trying to find the right moment to do the proposal and everything like that, but things, hijinks ensue, and just can't get the right moment. It's kind of like just like he's smart and everything like that, but he's like he's not like I can't imagine the proper word for it, but maybe he doesn't, like, not socially inept, but it's just like he gets nervous and he's trying to do it in like the suave, cool way, but he just like can't hit that stride to make it happen. To try to make it memorable as possible. But Pam gets called, to be, part of her sister's wedding to this doctor. So she and Greg take a flight to Long Island, because they're in Chicago. They take a flight to Long Island, New York, to be a part of this wedding, and it's a perfect time for Greg to meet her parents. I'm shocked. Well, not all that shocked now I'm thinking about it, because I was about to say, like, I'm shocked that, like I said, I don't know how long they've been together, but at some point, they never met each other's parents. Like, nobody ever visited, or, I'm assuming they talked on the phone or whatnot, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like you would think at some point you would have already met them, but I digress. So Greg hides the engagement ring in his luggage, which the airline end up losing. And I honestly say, now, of course, this came out in 2000. Yeah, this is 1 year before 9/11 happened. So security was pretty laxed, to say the least. But it's just like the airline workers there were so rude. And I get it was playing for comedic effect, but it's just so the callousness of they handled the situation when, yeah, you can say like, oh, they deal with, customers and all the time with different levels of attitude, and especially when it's like holiday season or whatever the case may be, and it's like everybody's rushing and trying to get people from point A to point B. But I've been on flights before, and of course I personally never witnessed anybody getting like agitated with like the people at the front desk or whatnot, but I dealt with a situation like, well, my luggage has never been lost, thank God. God forbid, knock on wood. But, I got a suitcase. I literally got a suitcase literally right here. and it's kind of big. So it has to go through baggage claim and all this other stuff, which costs freaking like, stupid, like I won't say a stupid amount of money, but still a pretty penny, which I do find super annoying, but can't get around it. So when they just callously, it's like, because as he's going through the metal detector, he's trying to keep it hush hush because he wants to surprise his girl for this engagement kind of thing. And he asks this dude for a solid, like, dude, can you do this? There's an engagement ring in there. I'm trying to surprise my girl. I don't want her to know what's in there. And dude is like, you know, practically like, brushes him off like, yeah, whatever. It's like you couldn't do a solid. It was me. It's like, guy asked me a simple favor. He's want to do something, like a surprise thing. It's like, does it? Like I said, I know it's played for comedic effect, but still, it's like, wow. It's no skin off your bones if like, hey, look, you know what? Let's like, talk with like the lady over there, like, hey, let's do this guy a solid. Let's, you know, uh, let this go one time. And now, of course, after 9/11, it's like, that ain't happening. But at least maybe they're a little bit lax. I mean, like, at least up to maybe 5 years after 9/11, that was never going to happen because things were still kind of raw. But I think maybe things died down enough to where if it happened today, I think, TSA and other people would probably be a little more chill about it if they inspected themselves. But it's like, all you gotta do is take a quick look in there, search the thing, make sure everything's copacetic, and do him a solid. Like, okay, everything's fine. Just let it, uh, go around, so that way you can have, you could have at least a few things they could have done to hook him up, because clearly it's gonna be like a special thing he's gonna do. I thought it was kind of crummy for what they did, and just the attitude and the callousness of it is like, dang, that's assholeness. But anyway, it's kind of hijinks that Greg ends up going to because nobody willing to like give him like the benefit of the doubt or like the extra helping hand. Is just like he's every which way, because he goes out his way to try to like, he's trying to do something extremely nice, and he's trying to be the good person, but other people are kind of crappy to him. But he's taking it on the chin constantly, which kind of leads to almost like a build up to the climax, where it's just like, will be a good thing with Greg throughout these three films, where it's like the build up until like things really kind of pop off. But of course, they end up losing his luggage, and so he doesn't have any spare clothes, and that leads to more awkwardness. Because when he eventually meets up with the Burnses for the first time, and of course, well, I'll get to that in a second. For all he knows about them, the father is a retired florist, and forgot what Dina did for a living before her, because they both kind of retired. But then they had this nice little quaint dinner before like the other family comes in the next couple of days. So they had this time together, and Greg, and it's very classy. It's like Greg, knowing because this is kind of like a very traditional kind of thing, because not many guys does this anymore, where it's like, you mean the folks for the first time. I guess back in the day, it would have been customary to, give a gift to the your potential future in-laws. You know, especially if you're seriously dating their daughter, it's just customary. Don't think anybody really does that anymore. Matter of fact, I highly encourage you guys, if you're serious about a woman and you've been dating them for a significant amount of time, you mean the parents for the first time, it'll be a very class act of you to present them with a nice little gift. If it's like, even if it's like something like a cheap champagne bottle or whatever. It doesn't even be crazy expensive, but something that, shows some level of respect. And that gives brownie points to you when they take note of, like, oh, wow. It shows them like, whoa, this dude's a class act. He's like, some level of respect. So Greg, presents them with a pot filled with soil with a rare plant bud inside that will bloom. Is one of the rarest plants ever. Knowing what Pam told him about how he's a retired florist, thought it would be like a very special, sentimental thing. So of course, Jack immediately starts grilling Greg about, what he does for a living, and comes out and says like he's like a nurse. And of course, nurses by and large are predominantly women. And he never really got, even though he has the grades, he preferred to he prefers his station as a nurse rather than like a full-fledged like doctor. And but he gets constantly teased about it. And I get it, because I think a lot of us who've seen this movie when it came out teased him about it, because yeah, it was a predominantly a female-centered type of profession. I mean, I think that changed over the years, obviously. So it's less ridicule when it comes to that profession. But back then, yeah, people were going to clown you for that kind of stuff. It is what it is. I mean, it's mostly it's good nature, fun. Nobody ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, cared. But you don't get some lighthearted jokes. But once again, Greg took it in stride. And of course, living under their roof, can't sleep in the same bed as his girlfriend. And it's like, gotta respect that. No hanky panky underneath his potential in-laws' roof, especially since they're not married yet. And of course, leading to further embarrassment, knowing that he doesn't have his own clothes to wear, no PJs. He has to borrow a couple of Jack stuff in the meantime. Eventually, the rest of the in-laws and the other Burns family members start showing up. Further, and then Jack just like throwing shade, like, oh, he's a nurse. Like, of course, doesn't even bother to like play it down for Greg's benefit. But Greg, being bashful about it, because meeting these people for the first time, not exactly like he's trying to make a good first impression, because he doesn't want like any kind of like any negative light towards him, because yeah, first impressions mean a lot. So if I was Greg, I was like, yeah, I'm a nurse, so what? I like the job. I still make money, still do well for myself. But it's just, I don't know. This is whatever profession that you're in, even if it's not super prestigious, say it with your chest, say it with your confidence. It's like, yeah, I'm a nurse. Oh, okay, and And yeah, want to fight about it? What? Uh, but then it's like, Greg eventually has to start borrowing because he doesn't want to keep borrowing Pam's dad's clothes. So he sneaks into, upon her suggestion, sneaks into her brother's room and try to utilize some of his clothes. And then he comes in, leading to further embarrassment. And of course, the son turns out to be kind of like a pothead. This is before, way before the whole legalization of marijuana. And of course, the stigma behind it was still there. Of course, Greg then, tries to get in good with the family. Like, oh, like, I'm cool, man. I'm cool. It's like, dude, just don't have to be so over the top with it. It's like, but he's like desperate to get these people to like him. And I think that, in my opinion, is getting him into more hijinks than necessary, where he just not being himself. And I get it. You're in unknown territory, and you're kind of on edge. You can't just fully relax around these people because you don't know these people like that. You're pretty much on the island by yourself. And Pam really is not making things easy for him, knowing it's like, imagine you're a couple, and one of your significant others got this big Christmas party at the office or something like that, and you go there, but you don't know anybody there. You will want to be around your significant other. Don't want to be left alone because you don't know these people, and it's just like it's just not cool in a way. So it's kind of how I see in this situation, where it's like Pam should, and she keeps trying to push him onto of course you want your father and your boyfriend to have some time together to get to know each other, but you should be refereeing that a bit, because sure, you want them to have some kind of quality time to get to know each other, but your guy at this point. He probably has this probably wouldn't be the first time he's in a nervous situation where he's feel uneasy and trying to find his stride. It's not like in that movie Hitch with Will Smith, where he's always smooth until he gets in a relationship on his own, and then he gets a little awkward. It doesn't come across like that. He's always probably seemed like, not a nervous Nelly, but he's not super suave and cool about things. Well, he's cool, but he's not slick about it. He's not uncomfortable in his own skin half the time. So you should know this, and so you should try to make sure you referee the situation, because you're leaving him holding the bag, thinking like he got this himself. And it's like, no, your guy. He's not the type of guy to just do things on his own and always handle it pitch perfect and everything like that. That's not a guy you end up with. So it's like you setting him up to fail, and that's not cool on your part, lady. You hanged him out. You was leaving him out to dry most of this movie, and that's kind of effed up, honestly. But then turns out that Pam's ex, I keep wanting to call him Owen Wilson. Kevin shows up uh, as part of the wedding, and dude clearly is like, you know, this dude is so uncomfortable. It's like, okay, Gray has no control over the fact that the Burns family want this guy who seems so perfect and so charming and all this, very successful and all this other stuff, that, you know, he's too good to not invite him. And it's like, this is like not cool with Greg. And of course, Greg can't say nothing. Because he doesn't want to look like a jealous, boyfriend about it. But I don't know. Once again, he has to be a part of the wedding. Pam should be the one to set certain boundaries. Matter of fact, Greg should have like a decent heart-to-heart with his lady. And it's like, look, I know I can't control the fact that he's a part of his wedding because you didn't, you didn't ask him to come. Your folks did, so it caught both of us by surprise. But we need to kind of set some kind of boundaries. If he tries, step out of bounds, you need to check that immediately. Or matter of fact, check it right now. And that's what Pam should have done. It's like, hey, Kevin, like, I don't want any weird advances on your end. Like, we're just friends. With my man, you won't be comfortable with you, do subtle little, reminiscing out loud about like, like your, this reminds me of this love and passion we had, and like none of that crap, because is awkward and is not cool. So check that stuff. That's what that should have done, nipped it in the bud, because it's like this dude is like laying on kind of thick and it's awkward, and he does that quite a bit in the trilogy. But then we get him. He's like apparently wood shopping, or like wood shopping, carpentering this gazebo looking thing as being part of the where the ceremony will take place, where they do their I do's and everything like that. So while they doing their little fitting for the tuxes and things of that sort, Jack ends up finding a marijuana pipe in his son's stuff, because eventually Greg finally gets his luggage and everything like that, and they find it at the airport. But the son not wanting to get caught by his dad, because his dad's obviously like very strict and everything like that, blames it on Greg. And then of course Jack still constantly suspecting Greg of not being on the up and up. So he questions him and thinks he's lying, because early in the film he strapped him up to like a lie detector and everything like that. That's when kind of skipped over this. That's where Pam brings up the fact that it has to come clean, which she should have probably been done while they was heading up to Long Island, that Jack used to be in the CIA. The Flores thing was a cover, which if it's supposed to be the cover, when Greg presented him with this super rare flower, Jack, to maintain his cover, should have brushed up on a little bit of floral and flower knowledge floral knowledge in order to make sure you keep up appearances and things of that sort. The fact that he looks so stunned and you know, not overjoyed or like he completely like has no clue what Greg is talking about when it turns this super rare flower. And it's like, you don't think Pam would have brought up the fact that you was a retired florist, so you probably wanted to, maintain that or whatever. It's kind of like a dumb on his part. Like CIA agents who probably have like cover stories probably want to brush up on their, cover story knowledge. If like I was, a CIA agent with a cover story of me being like a baker, I would at least study up on some knowledge on baking, at least somewhat, to maintain the cover. And somebody can ask me certain questions about baking, I would just wouldn't be pausing like that, like Jack did. That was like a poor display of a CIA agent's capabilities. Like, I've seen like a lot of spy films and a lot of videos of, retired CIA agents, watching, scenes with, movies about their professions and how true it is. And one of the things is like maintain a cover story. So you're going to have to brush up on that kind of stuff. So when somebody asks you, you can just coming up like that without, because if you pause or hesitate or mumble or like, none of that crap, then your cover's blown almost immediately, or at the very least, they'll start suspecting. So you don't want that. You want to answer these kind of questions pretty quickly, like you've been doing this for years, kind of situation. That was piss poor on Jack's part. So now Greg is even more antsy because like now it's like I gotta mind my P's and Q's because he's looking for any excuse to not like him. He can just read the writing on the wall. So of course Greg tends to be a smoker. Pam tells she had no trouble telling him about that right away on his way up. It's like, and then she tosses his pack of cigarettes onto the roof of his own, her own parents' house, trying to hide the fact. It's like, girl, like I said, she is like, I'm not saying she's a bad girlfriend, but she is definitely, she could have done way better than she's handling things. Because just like the brother trying to like, do everything they can to hide secrets from their father, knowing like how strict and very judgmental he can be. And it's just like the fear this dude can lay down is like it's kind of instantaneous. It's not like he's a bad father, but he's definitely kind of strict and judgmental. But she didn't hesitate of bringing up the fact that like, my dad hates smokers and drug users and blah blah blah. So, of course, Greg needing like like a smoke just to relax because he's already on edge, but he can't find any kind of cigarettes, and of course don't know why he didn't go out to the store just to find a pack or whatever. Of course he buys like nicotine gum, or he couldn't find because they didn't have no pack of nicotine patches, so he just go with the gum. But he just needed a cigarette, so he goes onto the roof to get the pack that Pam threw up there. But thanks to the Burns' pet cat Jinxie, he he's about to fall off, and Greg tried to rescue the cat, but he dropped his cigarette, still lit, and kind of through the crazy amount of hijinks, the flames fell, towards the gazebo, burning that woodwork down. On top of the fact that Greg, who arguably has lied, because he doesn't want to like he want to look positive. He want to look to be looked at favorably upon the Burns family at all costs, even to the point of him lying about the fact that he has to sleep in like a room in the basement area where there is a toilet, but you can't flush it because it hasn't been fixed yet, and it'll cause like kind of like a build up and stuff. So had to go one way. So it ends up like pouring into like the backyard where they supposed to have like this the wedding ceremony. So not only it stinks with all the sewage, but a lot of the chairs and the tables, they're covered in crap. Then on top of the fact that the little archway gazebo thing that was recently built is, ash at this point. So now Greg has looked at the blame. And Greg accidentally calls, Pam's sister Debbie to get like a black eye because they, much earlier right after they had a little breakfast together, they, join each other at the pool area to do this like, pool volleyball thing. And they want Greg to take part. And of course he says like, I'm cool, but they keep egging him on. And of course he joins in, but because his side is losing and he gets chastised about it. And of course, like I said, like kept poking people. And of course it's like he gets, it's like, of course it's like, tea kettle eventually is going to pop. So he like smacks that volleyball and it lands straight to Debbie's face. And now everybody's mad at Greg, ignoring the fact that like I said, I know it's played to a comedic effect, but just completely ignoring the fact that like y'all egged him on and teased him. So like ignoring the cause and only focusing on the effect is just like completely unfair. It's like, honestly, I feel myself in Greg's shoes. It's like I can definitely see myself in Greg's position in a lot of instances in my life where people get poking, and I kind of popped off, and then like I still get in trouble and completely ignoring what happened prior to the cause. It's just I've been there. Like I've been there in Greg's position. I see myself in Greg in a lot of cases. Like, oh my God, man. But in any case, of course, after Jinxie ends up during the whole ordeal, Jinxie ends up missing, and thinking like, oh, like I can get on Jack's good graces if I find Jinxie. But Greg's having a tough time trying to find the cat. But he goes to the animal shelter and think he found Jinxie, but it turns out not the same cat because the way the tip of the tail isn't like black. So not having the kind of time to find the cat, he thought he can just like, okay, I'll get this, stray cat, paint the tip of the tail black, and passes him off as Jinxie, at least temporarily, until I eventually get the time needed to find the real one. But eventually, the neighbor, the Burns' neighbor, finds Jinxie and brings him over, and now the jig is up. So now Greg is like, looked at it. Oh, he's been a disaster this entire weekend. On top of the fact that they think he lied about his MCAT test because, like, oh, he took the test and he has the scores needed to become a doctor, but clearly they think that he lied about that because using his CIA connections, Jack tried to look up Greg Fokker as a, for anybody who took the test under that name. Nobody couldn't find any records, so they think like, oh, he's been lying this entire time. And then of course Pam took her family's side, and so now, as Greg leaving, they soon discovered like, oh, his real name is Gaylord, and so they all start laughing at him, which admittedly it is funny. It's like, I can't say it's not funny. It's funny. So he heads back to the airport and he's frustrated. Pam pretty much abandoned him, which in my eyes, maybe not back then, but by today's standards, in my adult brain, I wouldn't trust Pam anymore. Because that's the thing. Like I said, don't know how long y'all been together. Y'all moved in together, so y'all been together for a significant amount of time. You know each other very well at this point. And you're supposed to, if you really love this man, you're supposed to have his freaking back. Even when it comes to your folks. And the fact that like you're just like, oh my God. And then she eventually backpedals when she realized that he did take the test. Like, wait a minute. Well, maybe he wasn't together with him to know that he took the test. But the fact that, like, you should know. She doesn't know his real name. He never came clean about her. I don't know if he ever came clean to her. But at some point, through those couple of years at the least, you would know, or at least fill her in about your real name and how embarrassed you are about that. And then that's why you eventually legally changed your name to be Greg Fokker instead of Gaylord. You should like at least like, okay, I know he took the test, and because he told me about it, it's like, he had no reason to lie to me about it or whatever like that. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that Greg probably would have filled her in about it, but she acted like she's like totally clueless, and it took this printout of this test to show that, oh, it went under a different name. It went under his birth name and not his legally changed name, so that's why he couldn't find it. But then now all of a sudden she's, mad at her father, and then his father's getting treated out by his wife, and it's like, y'all know what kind of, judgmental jerk this guy can be, where it's like, okay, you did not give this dude any chance. And matter of fact, Jack's wife should have known that, like, well, of course she says like, why don't you, she seems to like this one, why don't you just give him a chance or whatnot. And she has been, like Pam, a little too passive, where she could have just easily have stepped in, where it's like, okay, you strapped him, clearly you're not taking my advice because you put him up, you strapped him to a lie detector and everything like that. And it's like, knowing full well how he's been with Pam's previous boyfriends in the past, it's like, okay, why don't you stop doing your usual Jack thing and dial it back and actually hear this person out, kind of thing. It's not like Jack, of course, a lot of men who are raising daughters probably would do like a proper background check, sure, but you should still give a guy like a fair shake, as long as it's like nothing criminal going on or in his past. Give the guy a fair shake. But this dude was super judgmental from rip, and throwing shade left and right. Find any excuse to get rid of this dude, like in not so subtle ways. Uh, uh, of course, Pam starts picking up and answering Greg's messages, and she trying to call him back, knowing, you know, trying to make sure she leaves messages for thinking he should be on the plane by now, and hopefully he'll pick up and call her back, saying like she's sorry. Like I should have stuck up for you when you needed me. Like hell yeah, you should have stuck up for him. Like you know this dude well enough, where it's like he's a decent dude, and you have been leaving him out to dry this entire vacation, and it's like come on, it's like I'm shocked that he will even eventually take you back. It's like by today's standards, I was like, no. You showed your colors because like when I needed you most, your butt like ran with your tail between your legs back to your daddy, and it's like, wow, you doesn't show any kind of consistency or loyalty, because that is like a key thing what a lot of guys will like from their significant others, like some sense of loyalty, and that speaks to it speaks volumes to a guy. It isn't really much about looks. You can, as long as you're decent looking, you don't need to be like a runway model. You just be decent looking, kind hearted, and loyal. And you just like, wow, that is just like, it's cruel. It's like I said, she's not as bad as like Jenny from Forrest Gump. Even though my annoyance about that character is kind of dialed back a bit over the years, but still not as bad as her. But still, that is just like one of the key things that, you know, guys need from that lady. And she's just like her mom, way too passive, and like, you know, you're a guy. So you probably should have been refereeing this entire weekend, or at least sticking by him, not leaving him out to dry, thinking like, oh, la di da, he'll handle things. Like, it's like, no, you don't leave him out to dry in a area he's unfamiliar with or surrounded by people he doesn't know. Anyway, Jack ends up going to the airport while he gets using his connections to get him off the plane so he can actually have like a sit down in an interrogation room, and he does his own little polygraph thing, you know, checking his pulse to make sure he's not lying. And this is the moment where Greg comes clean about everything. Like, yeah, like I try to pass this stray cat off as Jinx. I did flush the toilet. Well, he didn't come clean, but it shows at the end credits that he did flush the toilet. He was completely lying about that. But he come clean about certain things, like, yeah, I'm a smoker. Like, I was trying to win your approval, but like, dude, you have some serious issues. Like, but Jack promises to like ease up, ask him to be his son-in-law. So he ends up, making amends with Greg. Greg comes back and proposes to Pam, and the movie ends with Debbie and Dr. Bob getting married and all this other stuff. And that was Meet the Parents. I mean, it's a fun film, honestly. The cinematography, the acting is great. Nobody was lacking in terms of their performance in their particular roles. The only things like I'm pretty much nitpicking is like certain character choices that they're doing. It seems like, I won't say unrealistic, but definitely like took it to the degree where it's like, come on now. Like the volleyball incident, like clearly y'all just completely ignoring what led up to that just to use Greg as a easy scapegoat to be like, mean towards too. God, it's like, Greg is the most sympathetic character, at least one of the most sympathetic characters in like a movie history outside of like superhero films. Whereas like this dude is like a decent guy, and he's getting like just push and pull in directions he didn't need to be, but he's not he's a victim, but he doesn't have like a victim mentality, and it makes him like super sympathetic. But outside of that, it's like, yeah, it's great cast of characters. Very fun dynamics. The comedic styles of both Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller is so on point. We all still remember the iconic "I'm watching you," like anybody who does this, it harkens to this film. It's like it generated a meme before a meme was a thing, where like who doesn't know this and where it comes from. But anyway, that was Meet the Parents. Yeah, and I didn't even know this. This movie is technically a remake off of a 1992 film of the same name. And of course, this was a lot more successful. It's one of those cases where the remake is actually a lot more successful than its predecessor. I didn't even know this was like a remake off of a film in the early 90s. But yeah, man, great comedic timing. It's one of the best Robert De Niro films. Honestly, it's right up there. He is very, very funny, and he does that straight man so well, and him opposite of Ben Stiller it's like comedy gold. Honestly, it's very fun. Highly recommend it. But honestly, like, we all been in the position of Ben Stiller, a lot of us. And honestly, I had like an ex with like a father who was like, who used to be in the military, and dude was kind of intimidating. Honestly, it's like I was minding my P's and Q's, and I was kind of nervous making. I get nervous. I make oddball jokes where my ex, did not, want me to make like, stupid cornball jokes when meeting her father. But it's like, dude, like I'm legit kind of nervous. So like I was trying to lighten the mood with some odd jokes. That's just how I deal with nervousness, by making stupid jokes. Cause like I'm in unfamiliar territory. Either that or I just be super quiet. Cause if I don't know anybody, I tend to just recede into myself, because I don't like messing around with unfamiliar territory. That's just me. But anyway, I will see you guys in a couple of minutes as I go over the sequel, Meet the Fockers, as they brilliantly set up in this film, where at the end, where it's like, well, now we just got to meet his parents. Like, oh, wow, who they going to cast as his parents? Well, you'll be shocked who they cast. And it was like perfectly cast, by the way. But anyway, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of Meet the Parents. Have you seen it recently? What are your pros and cons about the film at all? Matter of fact, I do wish that we see a lot more Greg standing up for himself early on in this film. Kind of said he seems very timid, but of course it's a nice arc with Greg, and I guess where throughout this trilogy we see him, and it kind of builds up towards the third film where it's like, he's grown as a character. He's very meek in a way in this film, but he grows into himself a little bit as the trilogy goes on. So I say he should like stand up for himself a little bit more early on in this film, but no, he has an own kind of arc going on, which I'll cover, I'm pretty sure, by the end of by the time I cover the third film. But let me know in the comments below what you think of the characters. Who are your favorite? Who are your least favorite? And I will see you all soon. Peace.